Yumi and the Nightmare Painter was written by Brandon Sanderson and published in 2023. It is the third of Brandon Sanderson's secret projects which he wrote over the course of the pandemic and financed through the most successful Kickstarter campaign in the website's history. The book follows the stories of the titular characters Yumi and Painter. Yumi lives in a world of spirits and nature, while Painter lives in a world dominated by modern technology and urban life. When these two people are connected by mysterious forces, they must work together to stop a threat that endangers both of their worlds. Of the books that were announced for Sanderson's secret projects, this was the one I was the most concerned about. I heard that this book was going to be romance heavy, and I was a little nervous as that is typically not what Sanderson is known for. I had also seen a number of other booktubers that I follow be pretty harsh on this book. However, despite all of these reservations, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter turned out to be a book that subverted my expectations in the best way possible. Here are my thoughts on Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. Starting off with the positives, the greatest praise that I can give to Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is that its world building is incredible. The book reads like a love letter to East Asia, as Yumi's world draws heavily from Korean culture, while Painter's world draws heavily from Japanese culture. This setup also allows the story to have a unique blend of both sci-fi and fantasy, as Painter's world is very technologically focused, while Yumi's world is very spiritually focused. In terms of aesthetic and description, this is probably my favorite world that Sanderson has created in any of his books that I have read thus far. It is quite a testament to Sanderson's strength as a world builder that he is able to pack so much detail into a book that is less than 500 pages long. In terms of the story, I was a little nervous going in as I had heard that this book takes a lot of inspiration from romance and slice-of-life stories. While I don't hate either of those genres, they aren't usually my thing, and on top of that, they are two genres that are very much outside of Sanderson's normal wheelhouse. However, what carried this narrative for me was the characters, their banter, and the development of their relationship. Both Yumi and Painter have interesting backgrounds and each go through a distinct character arc. One of the things that bugs me about a lot of romances in fiction is that many times the relationship is very rushed and built on a very flimsy foundation. But with Yumi and Painter, the relationship that develops between the two of them is very endearing, as both characters complement one another well and help each other overcome their personal insecurities. The book also does not rush to the romance, but rather allows both of the characters time to really wrestle with their feelings and figure out where they are in life. It is a very mature take on relationships that often is not seen in popular fiction. The side characters are also very entertaining and add a lot of flavor to an already great story. My personal favorite side character would have to be Design, as her backstory is intriguing and the way she talks is very entertaining. She is one of those characters who is both full of wisdom as well as incredibly snarky, and those kinds of characters are very fun to read. This book is also very funny to me, as a lot of the comedy revolves around situational and cringe humor. While Sanderson's quirky brand of humor doesn't work for everyone, so far, every book I have read from him has had humor that works very well for me. While reading this book, I couldn't help but make comparisons to Final Fantasy X in terms of both the world building and the story. Once I finished the book, I discovered in the postscript that Sanderson says that his primary inspirations for the book were Japanese manga as well as the video game Final Fantasy X. Like Final Fantasy X, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is a whimsical and heartfelt story that is elevated by the burgeoning romance between its main characters. And like many of Sanderson's books, this book has some fantastic plot twists that I didn't see coming, and once they happen, they recontextualize the whole direction of the narrative. On top of this, the book ends in a way that is beautiful, cathartic, and heartwarming. Without spoiling anything, this is the first time in a while that a book has gotten me as emotional as Yumi and the Nightmare Painter did. In short, if you are someone who cries at books, you better bring a box of tissues with you for this one. Finally, the illustrations by Aaliyah Chen are fantastic. Her illustrations do an excellent job of conveying the manga and anime inspiration of the book, as well as enhancing the aesthetic of the book. Each illustration looks like it could be a painting, and beautifully conveys the tone of the scenes that they are depicting. If you are someone who loves East Asian art, you will definitely enjoy the illustrations in this book. While I did really enjoy my time with Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, I do have some minor critiques. Firstly, the plot does take a little bit of time to get going. The first half of the book focuses heavily on exploring the world and the characters getting to know one another. While the first half of the book is a bit slow, once the midpoint of the book happens, the story kicks into high gear, and the plot starts to become much more intriguing. Particularly, the last third of the book hooked me all the way to the end. So if you read this book, bear in mind that the first half is very setup heavy, but that it gradually gets more action-packed as the narrative progresses. Secondly, while the humor mostly works for me, there are a couple of jokes that don't quite land for me, such as the whole situational humor of characters trying to bathe in the same location without seeing one another naked. Humor like that doesn't really work for me, but thankfully most of the book's humor is based on witty dialogue and different kinds of awkward situations. However, my critiques for Yumi and the Nightmare Painter are pretty mild when compared to the incredible world building and character work that is accomplished over the course of the narrative. In conclusion, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter is a fantastic story that perfectly blends tropes of both Japanese and Korean entertainment. It stands out within Sanderson's massive body of work due to its East Asian-inspired world-building and character-centric storytelling. It is a worthy addition to the Cosmere, and I firmly believe that it will go down as one of Sanderson's best books of his career. Therefore, I am giving Yumi and the Nightmare Painter 5 out of 5 stars. If you are a fan of East Asian-inspired media, you have to check this one out. This is my favorite of Sanderson's secret projects so far, and a strong contender for my favorite book to be published in 2023. I am also eager to read the other 2 books in Sanderson's secret projects, so stick around if you'd like to see my thoughts on those books as well. I hope you all have enjoyed this review. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and comment down below on your own thoughts on Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, as well as Sanderson's other books. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.